G'day and welcome to another edition of the Aussie Ideas Man. I'm going to be quick here. I don't think I'll be too quick with making the video, but I'll be quick with the visual part. Just the introduction and the goodbye, which I'll fit in very quickly now. This one is called Aptera is Inept, and what prompted me to do it is the latest from the Cretin, Aptera Owners Club, and his questions about what are they doing with the suspension. This taking beta to Italy and still working on the suspension after close to 3 years, I would imagine. Well, I thought I'd use that as the start point and then add a few really old videos that mention the suspension and just highlight how they're going nowhere and how inept they really are. I could do this for a lot of things, but this one's just a suspension. Maybe something I saw at the end, but doesn't matter. That will do for the introduction. The rest will be done just by text boxes.
Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. Let's talk a little bit more about this recent update, the April-May update.
Last month, we completed testing our beta vehicle at the Blauco Proving Grounds in Italy with Idiocy Engineering.
Okay, so Idiocy Engineering, I looked them up. They are an Italian automotive engineering firm. They do some prototyping, simulation, virtual stuff. But I think the thing that they're doing for Aptera is this road testing thing. What they do is they test prototypes, concept cars, and early production cars, and they just have a good way of doing this. So I think like Aptera was doing this already on their own, but maybe they decided they needed to get a second set of eyes on the beta prototype. So you see the beta prototype here. Now we were told that that they were testing suspension in Italy, and I just assumed that they were testing the PI suspension, like the prototypes of the PI suspension arms and the suspension geometry were already built out, and they had a mule or something working on that suspension. But it looks like this is still the beta suspension that was there, a year or two ago. And I don't know how that this is gonna go to the PI build, because the stamping and the parts look totally different if you look at the renders. But maybe maybe the geometry is the same, and they can use this geometry and extrapolate it to the PI geometry. I'm not sure. I'm not an automotive suspension engineer, but I just thought that was what's the case. But evidently they're testing the beta and maybe just doing different kinds of tests.
This testing was used to complete our final correlation of our virtual suspension model with how the suspension performs in real-world situations.
Okay, so, maybe it's this virtual testing thing. There's a couple other things that they didn't do that Idiocy is able to do.
Lateral and longitudinal dynamics such as frequency slip and harsh deceleration. Now that this testing is complete, beta is retired, and with this correlation complete, we now have the necessary tweaks to our final suspension geometry and have released our chassis and suspension for our PIs to be built.
Okay, so they released the PI suspension to be built. I guess they're just gonna go straight to the full PI build suspension. I kind of thought that the way it would work is you build a single prototype of the PI build and test that on a physical model. But they're doing the testing off the beta suspension, and it seems like they got enough information off of that to just go straight to the physical build in terms of like mass production models. Or does this mean that they are now going to make a single prototype of the PI build and they're going to test that out? I'm not sure how it works. I'm going to try to get some clarity from Aptera on this point, and see if what this means is now they've dialed in the production suspension geometry and everything, and they're just ready to go, and they know that this is going to work, or they need to build a prototype and they're going to tweak it some more before they go to the PI build. Depending on what that is, then we'll have a better idea of where we are on the timeline for the suspension.
We don't have the first chassis on site yet.
If any of you guys are more knowledgeable about how car design works, explain to me this suspension thing. You think they got enough information using the virtual suspension modeling and then the real world testing of the beta, which is kind of close but not exactly the PI build, to go right to mass production suspension geometry and suspension parts? Or do you think that this means that they're gonna now build a prototype suspension and test that? All right, well, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Hi, Aptera fans. It's been a busy summer here. We've been designing beta, and the engineers have been working long, hard hours and even over the weekends to make things happen. We couldn't be prouder of the progress we've made. We've now released all of our body tooling for beta, along with our suspension, glazing, closures, and we're continuing to refine our interior and our electrical. We'll be seeing parts soon, and the beta builds will be commencing. It's not been an easy road through the beta design process because worldwide supply chains have been thoroughly disrupted by COVID. Thankfully, we've been able to make great progress on the beta design with the support of our fans, our engineers, and suppliers around the world. We're grateful to our fans who've kept us entertained and well fed through this beta design process.
Hi, Chris.
How you doing, Pablo?
Good.
Pablo has an incredible vision for Aptera, and he brings us great experience from SpaceX and Faraday, and he'll be integral to helping us get to our 40 vehicle a day production goals soon. He'll be working with Roush and Monroe to make our dream production facility come to reality over the next year. We're trying to take a very flexible approach to manufacturing. We've broken the vehicle up into sub-assemblies, and those sub-assemblies can be built in small stations that can be reconfigured in our factory very easily. Some of those sub-assemblies are the front suspension, rear suspension, our solar package, interior module, battery module. Those things can be put together or taken apart very easily. Hey Aptera fans, it's a big day. We put a pin in the alpha developments, and here's the proof. 3 beautiful Aptera vehicles on this super sunny San Diego day. Now we're on to our beta phase of development. We've had some amazing progress with our body tooling being completed and our first parts being built, our front suspension frames being completed, and we're working hard on our solar panel development. Our beta development efforts will consist of between 6 and 12 vehicles. We're going to be testing everything from braking performance to calibrating the HVAC for its thermal performance to a lot of different safety testing that we'll be doing to make sure we have the safest vehicle possible for all of you. Our beta development vehicles won't be pretty. They're for functional testing and safety testing. We'll be doing all kinds of things with vendors all around the world, and you will see a lot of them over the next coming months, but you won't see the pretty side of them like these 3 beautiful vehicles here. And we can't wait to take our beta development efforts up to our new beautiful building up in Carlsbad, California. While we're here, a couple technical points that I wanted to go over with you. First is we've completed our body and white tooling for the betas, and parts are being built right now. The second is the impressive work that our suspension team has done on the beta vehicles. We have much improved aerodynamics with much slimmer upper and lower control arms, and our wires are hidden away very nicely to increase our aerodynamic performance. And our rear suspension has changed over from a single-sided swing arm to a double link suspension in the rear, which gives us much improved performance. Hey Aptera fans, it's Chris. I'm at our beautiful new production facility here in sunny Carlsbad, California. Construction has been coming along nicely, and we'll be moving into this facility over the next couple months. Pablo, our brilliant VP of production, has been back in Detroit and in several other places acquiring the manufacturing equipment that will fill this facility over the next 6 months. as we press to keep to our schedule to deliver vehicles by the end of this year. As we near production, we're refining and locking down many components of the Aptera design. Our solar team has been making amazing progress. We finally built our first full production run of panels for the vehicle, and we're going through testing and validation for the production processes now.
Hey Aptera fans, I'm Nathan Engler, lead of the Chassis and Suspension Zone. Today we'll be showcasing some of our engineering presentation, which will go over technical information that we share when presenting to investors. We'll be reviewing chassis, suspension, and some of our crash simulations. Enjoy!
So Nathan Engler is heading up our chassis and suspension team. This team is responsible for developing the chassis and obviously our suspension system, and also going to morph into this new role of leading our validation, homologation, and testing team in the next few months.
I think one of the big things that happened when we started talking with CPC and ETP is they said create a load path from the front suspension to the rear, and everything gets a lot easier.
Yes, and we will see that in the next few slides, but this architecture also allows us again to go back to the famous 12 minutes cycle time. We can build this frame with the suspension components on a sub-assembly line and then marry it with the bink at a later point in the assembly line. This is the front end of the vehicle, again very modular. It's an unequal A-arm setup. We brought the shocks and suspension components to the center of the vehicle, centralizing the center of gravity into the nose of the vehicle. And the other thing is these obviously modern tools that allow us to analyze it. We know how aluminum works, right. So it's makes it very, very predictable, and reduces the risk of tooling something up. So we can eliminate some intermediate steps in the development of this whole entire project because we can predict how these components are going to behave.
That's a really good point. This SMC material from CPC, along with the aluminum, both which are well understood in their behavior, they can be modeled perfectly, so we don't have to do destructive testing. We can have high degree of confidence of the simulation versus real-world testing.
And a lot of things that we do in digital, then we also test in an empirical manner, so out in the field. And again, going back onto Nathan's team in chassis and suspension, this is what they do, and they will be continuing doing, taking the digital data and predictions and make sure that the real world behaves exactly the same way as in the computer.
Yeah, the previous frame analysis was really finite element analysis, how that material changes on impact and under stress. But we also have simulations on how the vehicle moves and what the kinematics are of the vehicle. And that helps us with analyzing things like how will the vehicle react in curb strikes, and how will the vehicle react, on pothole tests, and, swaying back and forth and things like that. So we actually take, this is beta, instrument it up, put a lot of computers and sensors on it, and then go out and test how the vehicle actually performs in the world, so we can correlate that data to what happened in the simulation. And if you get really good correlation, then when you make a change in the future, you know that change is going to work in a predictable manner.
Yeah, and the curb strikes are pretty violent. I mean, it busted all three tires, I think. Didn't just deflate them, it busted them. But it allowed us to collect the data to then put into the Adams model, so that we have a very high degree of concordance between real life and the Adams model. So like you said, we can make a small change in software and have a high degree of confidence that it's going to behave that way in the real world.
And this chart shows the red line is the simulation, and the blue lines are when we actually went out and got real-world data. So we had 95% correlation, which is just amazing, and shows you how far the simulation tools have come.
That's all from me. Bye for now. Stay safe.